Hello, everyone. Welcome to this new edition of Be My Guest. Today, we are going to talk about women behind the wheel and more specifically on a racing track. I am very pleased to welcome the vibrant and enthusiastic racing driver Gaby von OPPENHEIM. Hello, Gaby. Nice to have you here.
Hello, Stephanie. Thank you for having me. It's very kind. I'm very excited.
So we're going to talk about you, of course. And first of all, I would like to know about your background, family background. How did it all start? Do you have racing genes? How did you get into cars? Were you playing with cars when you were a child, for instance?
I think I probably was playing with cars, but no one else in my family was ever playing with cars. I had a grandfather who was very much into cars, and my mother is a little bit into cars, but otherwise, car racing and all cars are not really very well regarded in my family. I come from a very strict Protestant family close to Wuppertal, and it's an industrial family, and they're all very much into not doing stuff which is very exotic, like car racing. So it wasn't so easy for me to start. But then when I was little, I fell in love with we went on a holiday to Portugal. My family rented a little Mini, the first little Minis, and I totally fell in love with that car. And yeah, exactly.
Was it your first car?
Yes, that was my first car. It was my first car. It had, I think, exactly 39 horsepower, and I took it to Greece via southern Italy. It took 5 days, and the car constantly broke down. It consumed all my students' money. Basically, I spent all my money on food and cars. There wasn't much left for anything else, and I took it through Europe. It was incredible. It did basically top speed kmh. You know, when the dial ends below 140 downhill, it was stopping at 8. And it overheated. So in summer, I had to turn on the radiator to cool the engine whilst driving. And I think I had very smelly feet at the time.
So, well, you have you go under the name Gabriele Spangenberg in on Instagram, and as a matter of fact, Gabriele Spangenberg is a character from the comics Michel Vaillant. And I looked it up. I took out my old comic books and looked up for Gabriele Spangenberg. Yeah, and it's quite fitting actually. She's German. She lives. Her family has a castle close to the Nürburgring.
Yes.
So it's quite close to you as well, and she's a pilot. So that's really strange. Did you start reading those books when you were a child?
I had a cousin who came to spend the summer holidays with us, and he brought these funny cartoons called Zack, which was Michel Vaillant. And of course, I read them. I read anything cars, and it was fantastic. And actually, I always wanted to be like her because she gets to drive all the race cars. She gets to drive the trucks as well, which I think is fantastic. And at every black tie dinner, she gets to wear a black tie. She doesn't have to wear any of the silly female dresses, yet she's not a major character. She's not a superhero. She's still all right. And when I started my internet blog, I thought it's better to start under a pseudonym than under my own name, because Oppenheim is a name which is known in Germany. And I thought I always wanted to be like her. And my name is Gabriele, her name is Gabriele, and Oppenheim and Spangenberg are actually very close. And then it really made me laugh when I reread all these comics, and I discovered that her identity is actually very close to my own.
Yes, this is weird, actually.
It's very weird. And I have a race suit, and it says Gabriele Spangenberg, and I was racing in Spa in Belgium, which is the country of origin of these cartoons. And I was standing in the pit lane, and there was a Belgian guy walking past me, and he looked at me and said, Gabriele Spangenberg, c'est vous? He really thought... I was like, yes, it's me. It's the new Gabriele Spangenberg. But it's a great pseudonym because it's not only that it's very close to me. I think also these cartoons are really amazing as that they portray what is racing so well. You really get a sense of what makes the racing world so special. Probably not the characters because they're all really wooden, but I think everybody who's into the racing scene loves reading Michel Vaillant because it really brings up in your mind the epoch of all the great races. It's a great cartoon.
It's a great cartoon, indeed. Indeed. And I hadn't read it for a long time, but last night I started reading it again. And this is the first, Les Chevaliers de Koenigsville, the Knights of Koenigsville. This is the very first encounter between Michel Vaillant and Gabriele Spangenberg.
Yes.
Well, that was... This is funny.
There is only one mistake in there because she drives a Mercedes Pagoda, and that's a car, I'm sorry, I wouldn't be seen dead in. I'm known for my dislike of Mercedes in Germany, so I can say this officially.
Well, in the cartoons, she says that her father thought it was more fitting for a girl to drive a 230 SL Mercedes. So this is the reason she's driving a Mercedes.
Yes, because she's following her father, and I was obviously not following my father entering the racing scene.
So when you came into the racing world rather late in 2008, what was the trigger?
What was the trigger? I think it was the encouragement of my mechanic, Marc de Siementaler, who basically saved me at the first. I only started this whole car thing in 2004, which was when I did the Coupe des Alpes, which is a very, very, very nice rally going from Evian across the French Alps into Cannes. And I did it with a friend. And of course, we got stuck because something was broken on the car. And I cannot fix a car to save my life. So somebody stopped right on the road, and he put the car on the pavement, and he fixed it. And it was just a screw missing. It was an M8 that was attaching the rope of the clutch to the car. I don't know. So he fixed it, and he didn't have the screw. And I was so afraid that the car would break down again that I was stuck behind his bumper, and he was driving like a maniac for 2 days. I was just following him. I was glued onto his bumper because I was so afraid that we would get stuck again somewhere in the middle of the French Sea Alps in summer. There's nobody there. We would have died probably. And after 2 days, and he actually tried to get rid of me. He didn't want this woman in his back the whole time. And after 2 days, he said, I think you should be doing racing because we're overtaking everybody. And he was doing the ID line, and I was just ducking. And I thought, yes, why not? Because I love driving so much, and it's very, in a way, it's. I think as a woman, if you don't have a brother or a father or someone else from the family who encourages to go racing, you need somebody who actually says go racing, because it would never encourage. I think no woman would, from my background at least, would ever think of, oh, let's go racing, car racing. It's not a very likely thing to do. Do you know what I mean? You probably had the same experience. I think hardly any woman would ever do that. So he said, let's do it. And you should come to Le Mans Classic, which was 2006. And I have a car for you. And it was all too close. And also, I'm very glad I didn't do it. And I bought a 2.5 ST. Yes, that's the Le Mans start. I love that because I'm quick in that. It's funny. It's a great start. It's really funny. But I bought a 2.5 ST, and I did my first race in 2008 in Le Mans Classic, which was really too much. It wasn't too much in the sense that it was truly too much. It's probably the most exciting thing you can do on 4 wheels in a classic car. And that was, where would it go from there? I didn't sleep for 78 hours. I was a minute slower than my co-pilot, Marc de Siementaler. I think I was just totally overwhelmed by the whole experience. Exactly. Yeah, that's Group C racing, I think.
Because Le Mans Classic is just like the other Le Mans. It's 24-hour race.
Yes, and you race at night, and you have 3 starts, and I didn't know where to go, where the starting grid was, and you stay in a camper van, which I discovered I love as well. And I'd never camped before, but I arrived there and I thought, my God, this is my heaven. And then I thought of my husband, and I thought this would be his hell. And then I thought, after I'm dead, it doesn't really matter if it's heaven or hell. I just want to end up here forever on the camping site where they unload all the cars, and it's very alive, and it was really wonderful. But the Mont Classic is quite a thing to start with, because you race at night, and I was in grid 5 where you have really the 917, you're really quick and fast cars. So it's actually very, very scared and very, very excited. And then after the weekend, I told myself, because obviously I wasn't very quick, but I think nobody's ever quick in their first race. I thought, okay, let's give yourself 2 years where you find out whether you actually, if you have any talent for it, if you're prepared to work on it, and if you can do it. And I thought, that's fine. 2 years till I decide whether I want to continue. And that's when I started taking lessons and doing my first courses. And after 2 years back in Le Mans, I was there with Claudia Hürtgen, and I did really well. I think I had a really good stint at night, and it was so obvious that this was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, this racing. So there was no question anymore of stopping.
So you've been racing different cars. What car do you race? So what cars do you race? What was the first one you raced?
The first was a 2.5 SD Porsche 911, which is a great car. But then somebody gave me very good advice and said, buy a 2-liter car, which is a smaller and an earlier car. It's a 1965 Porsche 911. It has the short wheelbase, which means that it moves a lot in the rear. You really learn how to drive, because on the straight, it's like our dogs. When they wave their tail, it basically does this, the car. But that means that also in the turn, it has something which is almost, if you could imagine driving something which was like a parrot, and it does this in the rear, or like a wasp, where the rear, suddenly you enter a turn, and suddenly you feel that the rear sort of sets in, or it's almost separate from the car, and you really have to play with the throttle to make the whole thing really stable through the turn, and you can really play in turns, because you just lift and then it sets somewhere else, and it's really sensual. It's like dancing with the car, and it was a really good advice. So I bought my Cobalt Racer, which is the 911 that I usually enter the Tour with, and sometimes I do the 2-liter cup. Yes, I love this car.
Beautiful
it's so
car.
Nice. Yeah, it's a beautiful car, and I think it's my best smelling car as well. There's something really magical about the Porsches, that if you drive in the summer and it's a nice day, something magical happens at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They start to smell absolutely delicious. Yeah, they have this typical old 911 smell that no other car has, and it sort of sets in the late afternoon, and you sit there and you go, this is the best smell in the world. They don't do it in the morning, they don't do it at night. Don't ask me why. And probably other people will say, no, this is rubbish. But at least my cars, they do that. It's wonderful. So this is the one I do, the Tour. I did a couple of races on the Nordschleife with this car as well. I did a couple of courses, but now it's basically my French racing car, which I do all the French races with. And then I have a German car, another German car for the German series, which I race as well. It's a little BMW 2002, I think. Yeah. Which is a great car to race, because it's actually very quick. It's not complicated to race like an old 911. You don't need to be so skilled at driving. Well, I think other people would probably contradict me. You still need to have great skill, but that is on Nordschleife in the Karussell. It's super fast. It's super stable. It's like a little Haflinger horse. It's super reliable. It's really and quick. And I think what's nice about this car, it's a car that is very democratic. When I go to the races, I have a lot of elderly Germans coming up to me and saying, oh, I used to race this in the 70s, because basically Mercedes, the company doing the races, Formula One, no. And then you had, in the Porsche scene, you had private teams, which were racing their teams together with Porsche, but it was still something quite exclusive. But this BMW was really a people's car where everybody could buy it and race it. Even people who didn't have a great income. It was really a democratic car. So it's a really popular car. People love this car. And the scene in Germany is getting bigger and bigger. We have more and more races with this 2002. Last weekend, I had a race with 2 other women in the 2002, which is great. I think we have a growing scene.
You raced an Alpine as well.
Yes, I race an Alpine. Yes,
A
this
to
car,
A to 10.
yes, exactly. And this car I'm really proud of because it was actually in my first race in 2008. I saw this car in my grid, and I'd never seen it. But it's a prototype, so you don't really see these cars at classic car meetings, gathering fairs or something. So I saw this car and I thought, this is like a dragonfly. This is the most fragile looking, most elegant, funny, strange looking car I've ever seen in my life. I was totally intrigued. If you see it in real life, it's very small, it's very long, it's very elegant, it's really fast. Yeah, there you see it. Look, it has these winglets. I think
It's beautiful, beautiful. Yes.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and not only is it beautiful, it's there's a great car in German, which is a Porsche called 906. It's the German equivalent to this car, and I love the 906. But I think this car is even greater because not so many were built, and it's really a French icon. I think it's one of the most important French racing cars, and I feel tremendously privileged to own this car because I think in a way it should really live in France. It's a French cultural heritage. It's an important car. I mean, of course, I'm glad I have it, and I'm glad to race it in France. But it's really part of your history, of your racing history, and it has a Le Mans history. It was built for Le Mans in 1966 and raced there 66 and 67. I think in one race they even won the index of performance, which is great. It's obviously the only thing that such a small car can win. Has a 1300 engine. And it still goes way beyond 200. That is quite fast for such a small thing. But I'm very, 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 very proud of this car because I bought it at an auction 4 years ago or something. And I think in a way it wasn't really so appreciated then. And I thought it cannot be that no French person wants to have this icon. It's really up there when it comes to French racing cars.
And you drive an Oscar as well?
Yes, I drive an Oscar as well. Yes, I had an accident with it. Is that the Oscar? Yes, that's the Oscar. The Oscar is another great racing car. It's a car built by the Maserati brothers. The Maserati brothers sold their company in 1939 to an Italian count and worked for him for 10 years. And after 10 years, both parties, the Italian brothers and the Italian count, were too proud to ask for an extension of the contract. So the Maserati brothers said, okay, then we found our own company, and this is the Oscar company. Oscar is short for Officina Specializzata Carrozzeria Automobili dei Fratelli Maserati or something like that. And they had they built from 1949 till 1962. It's not a very long time, unfortunately. They built these beautiful, small, very effective racing cars, which won a lot of races, especially the mountain races. Not so much on the racetrack, but for mountain roads, for special stages. But this car is very rare because it's built in 1959. It has a 4-cylinder engine and is a 2-liter car. Basically, most Oscars have 1300 or 1500, and I think over a period of 12 years, they've only built 5 2-liter cars, and the others have a 6-cylinder engine. Mine has 4-cylinder, 6-liter, and in the same year, they built another car which had a desmodromic engine, which meant the valves are basically like this and not like this. So the whole shape of the other car is different. And this is a hand-built car by Morelli, I think, is the carrozzeria, and for me, it looks like a 450 Maserati, only much smaller. It's tremendously loud. It's tremendously beautiful. It's tremendously dangerous to drive because if you have an accident, such a small car, and it's tremendously loud. Every time I drive past, everybody tells me, "Oh, I know it was you driving past," because the car is so noisy.
Well, you have a great garage actually, and you
Yes.
own a Toyota 2000 GT as well. Do
Yes.
you drive it on the track?
No, that's not a race car. That's a sports car. Yeah, as a race car, you need to have a different setup. You need to have a cage and stuff. This car is
It's
a
beautiful.
sports car, so it's absolutely beautiful. I think it's the GTO of the East. That's what it's called. And the Japanese built it in I think the first car was built in 1966. This car is from 1969. It's again a 2-liter car engine. I tend to go for 2-liter cars. I think it's just my type of car. And the engine was built by Yamaha. They built the engine, and there is the designer was Nozaki. It was a Japanese designer from Toyota. There are rumors that Albrecht Graf Goertz designed the car, but they're actually wrong. He designed the car, and you see a lot of European design elements in the car. For example, it has the double bubble roof that the Zagato invented, and it has this funny rim at the back, which is called the Kamsche Heck. He was an engineer that brought the downforce on the rim. You see a little in the rim there. It's a very strange looking car. I found it extremely beautiful. It was also a James Bond car. The Japanese agent in Tokyo, I think her name was Kissy Suzuki or something like that. She drove the car, but Sean Connery was too tall to fit in, so they cut off the roof and pretended it was a convertible. It's a fake convertible. It's hilarious. It's funny.
And which among all those cars, so the Alpine, the Oscar, and the Porsche, which is your favorite one on the track?
It's always the one I'm sitting. It's really funny. I think it's every time I sit in a car, I go, oh my God, this car is tremendous. This is my favorite car, and I should race it more often. I think it's like asking a mother, which child do you love best? Do you know that? They're all, yeah.
And is there a racing car you don't own, but you're dreaming of having?
What? I think there's 700s. There's 700s, I think. I'd love to own a 906 still, the car I've talked about before. I'd love to have a Maserati MC12, which is a more modern car, and I think it's absolutely very sexy. I still like to own a 2.7 RS Porsche. I think there's so many. I think my absolute favorite car is the Ferrari P3, but I will probably not be able to ever buy that. But it's so beautiful, this car. It's so beautiful, especially when you see it in Limo Classic. And I saw it in my first race at dusk. And the car, basically, when they pass you, these cars, they go like this. It's so erotic. It's so elegant. You cannot imagine. To see a car in motion like that, it's really a privilege. It's wonderful. Yeah. I think I have a lot of cars which are still on my list. Also, not only race cars, also beautiful cars like the Fiat Autoroute, like a lot of other Oscars, like a lot of Maseratis. The Maserati 450S is a beautiful car. Well, yeah. 037 Lancia is still on my list.
So many cars, so little time.
So little money in a way.
And what is your favorite track? Well, I guess you've raced many tracks in the world, and so what is your favorite one?
Of course, it's Nürburgring Nordschleife. It's the most dangerous. It's the longest. But then also my second favorite is that's the Grand Prix track. It's the Grand Prix track, and the real track is 26 kilometers, and it goes across the country, and it's really amazing. It's a bit like, I also love Charade, where the Tour Auto is today, I think, and I'm really thinking of them. I love Charade because it's a little like a little Nürburgring. It goes up and down. It has all the old tracks have really beautiful turns. It's like a painter taking a brush, and he does this with a brush. You know, you really finish a curve, and in these old tracks, you always finish a curve. It's really beautiful. And there's one which is called Port Arnaud in the south of France. It's a really small track, and it's like lollipop racing. It's fantastic for spectators because they see the whole track, and you go up and down with your little Porsche, and there's one turn where you can be in fifth gear, and you go downhill, and you can go full throttle. It's incredible. I love this track. It's great for Porsches, and I think that's my favorite track. Second favorite track is Charade, Nürburgring, Spa. Everybody loves Spa. Spa is my slowest track. I'm always, because I started racing there, I don't get quicker. I think I'll be slow there forever, but I still love racing there.
And well, the Nürburgring, you live in Köln, in Cologne. So this is very close to the Nürburgring. Yes. And we were mentioning Gabriele Spangenberg earlier. And of course, the Nürburgring is in the area of the Nürburg Castle, medieval castle. And I think that track has something romantic to it. You know, in the Germanic legend style, it's close to the Rhine and in the mountains, the Alpine mountains. It has something very special.
You're absolutely right, and I think only a woman can put it that way in a romantic. For me, it's a track out of Grimm's fairy tales, because people die there, you know, and it has something, you know, the legend of the Lorelei, this beautiful woman sitting on the rock, and she's luring all these men, and they all die. And I think Notchlife has the same siren song beauty to it. You know, it really attracts a lot of people. It's legendary. And
Jackie Stewart nicknamed it the Green Hell. 176 curves on 20 kilometers or so. It's
70 curves. Yes, it's crazy. And really, people, there's so many accidents every day. You really, really need to know your way around it. And the forest is dark there. The countryside is beautiful but dark. But it is really, your description sums it up perfectly well. I mean, the weather here is beautiful, but you can have snow on one end and sun on the other end. Yeah, it's because it's also so long, and it takes you through so many different countrysides that it's always, for all the race drivers. Also, they're going to have the 24-hour race now in a month. I wonder what the weather is going to be like. It's really tricky to do. They build it in the 20s for all the poor people there to create some work and money, and so it's a really early track. And basically, I think they just took the road that was going around the mountains and turned this into a track. And it still is you really have a narrow band of asphalt there. You know, it's very quick that you have an accident and you break your car and your leg probably. But it's very, how can I say it? It is really a fairy tale. It's really wonderful to race. You really need your concentration the whole time. You know, but it's the most challenging track in the world also.
It is supposed to be, yes.
Yes.
And what is your next race?
My next race will be there, I think. Is it going to be there? No, it's either in Portugal with Patrick Peter in October. I think that's in October. And then the last race of the season will be Nürburgring on 1st of November. And everybody's really curious because November, it can actually snow. And we obviously are not going to race in the snow. It can be foggy, can be rainy, it can be cold. It's a great challenge because Nürburgring in the wet, whoa, it's really special. But I think the next one will be in Portugal with Patrick Peter. There wasn't a lot of racing this year, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes, with the situation. Actually, you were supposed to be part of the Tour Auto, to take part to the Tour Auto, and because of the sanitary situation, you had to cancel. Yes, so I guess
we had to cancel because there's now an official warning from the how do you say it, from the German government, which would have meant that we come back and we had to go into quarantine for 2 weeks. And we can't do that. No, we cannot be away for 3 weeks. So that's the reason why we had to cancel. It really wasn't possible to do that. And it's really a shame because I would have loved to see France at this time of the year. Usually we go in spring.
Usually it's spring, yes, of course. So you told me earlier that you're going to Salzburg in the next days. What are you going to do there?
I'm going to do something really great. I think I'm invited as an instructor for a women's track day. On a women's track day, it's only women and their cars are allowed. And I think it's a very, very good thing because usually the body language of men in race suits, and mine probably as well, changes. It becomes much more Godzilla-like, and and we women don't do that. It's scary, you know. It's scary when you see somebody who brings out their shoulder and goes, the track is mine and don't stand in my way. It's off-putting, and people are not encouraged to go on a racetrack because you don't want to be in anybody's way. I don't want to be in anybody's way, and in fact, if somebody in a race is in my way, I don't really like it a lot either. So I understand these men as well, but as women, we can be much more encouraging to bring other women onto the racetrack and to say, look, you're doing really well there and you can try harder there and this should be done. And we have a different language. We have a different body language. We express ourselves differently. We are more empathic. I'm not saying that men are not empathic, but I think generally women are more empathic towards each other. So I'll be going there with Claudia Hürtgen, and both of us will be instructors, and hopefully bringing a lot of women onto the track so that they will do. Last year I did it already, and one lady after this, she took her license, which I thought was a great success. Yeah, the more women we can lure onto the track, the better it is.
So to end with a car subject of what cars do you drive for daily use?
I drive a Fiat 500 because I find parking spaces. I'm crap at parking. Every racing driver, they do this and they tell you where to park. I cannot park to save my life. I'm crap, so I drive a Fiat 500. And I'm getting a new car in 2 weeks, and I'm really looking forward to that one as a daily driver, which will be an i8, which I think is a great car because it's a sports car. Yes, mine will be black, and I think that's the first series. And I'm really excited because I can drive without feeling guilty. I can plug it in, and I can visit my friends. And look at these doors. I think they are
they're just incredible.
Sexy.
They are beautiful.
Yeah. Yes,
and
beautiful.
would you take part to an electric race?
Yes, because the acceleration of these cars is so great. I think absolutely I would. I think you probably miss a bit of the engine sound, but I think, yes, I'd love to. I'd love to. Yes, I would.
But
I've never. Yes.
You would never trade a thermic engine against an electric engine. If you had to keep one car, would it be electric, like the i8, for instance?
Don't do that too much. Like telling me you have to kill all your children and keep one child. No, I can't do that. That's very unkind, this question, Stephanie. Actually, if I was only allowed to keep one car, I have a 911 1969 2-liter S. I think I would keep this one because you can take it to the track. It's not a race car, it's a road car, but you can still take it on the track, go to the track, go back. I can park this car. It's not so big. I could even use it as a shopping car. I think it would be this one. No, it wouldn't be an electric car because I love all cars. And I really think the idea of putting electric engines into all cars, it's a fake one. What's the point? I don't believe in that. I believe in modern electric cars, yes, very much, but not in all cars with electric cars. It's a fake.
Classic must remain classic, actually.
Yes, absolutely.
So I mentioned that your second passion is cooking. So you started back in 2010 a cooking blog. Why did you start a cooking blog? What happened?
What happened is that, the first thing that happened that my family said, you cannot talk to cars anymore. It's over now because we cannot hear it anymore. And my friends said the same. Good friends are. And I loved cooking as well. And I had these many tremendous experiences and adventures with a car. And I wanted to share them with somebody. And then it was also the time where the first cookbooks appeared. And I thought, I watched these and I saw how inspiring they are because the photography is usually very beautiful. And I think cooking is inspired by images, by pictures. Cooking is not inspired by reading recipes. So I think images, pictures are really important. And the first cookbooks were fantastic. It was a different world that suddenly opened. And I thought, let's do it. Meals and wheels, not meals on wheels, which is obviously meals brought to people, but it was meals and wheels, cutting corners and cutting carrots, because with both you need a lot of dedication. And cooking takes dedication and love and concentration, and it's not so far away from racing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think anybody who cooks will tell you that if you really want to cook, you need to concentrate. You need to hand yourself over to the process. At least that's my experience. I cannot just cook like this. No. I really need to concentrate and enter this. It's like a cloud you enter. It's this cooking cloud. So now I'm only going this. I can also not. Some people can drink a glass of wine and cook and talk to their friends. It drives me crazy. I can't do that because then I forgot if I put the rice in the risotto. No. I'm concentrated.
So you sent me a couple of dishes, photographs of dishes. Did you do them? Because I was quite impressed. Actually, I'm going to show them. So this is your specialty, I think, chili con carne.
Yes, this is the one my children love the most. And I found that as a student, I bought an old recipe book in a second-hand shop, and it was all about herbs and spices. And that was a recipe in there, and it's really fantastic because you need to stew the meat for, I think, 3 hours. And then just before the end, you put in some vinegar, a clove, and some dark chocolate. It's a really...
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. Dark chocolate, because it gives something to this tree. It gives it depth. It gives it depth. Okay. I don't know why. A little bit of bitterness, just a tiny bit, and depth.
I will have to try it.
Yes, yes, it's a
you
great recipe.
This as well. I'm not quite sure if it's panna cotta or what is it.
That's caffè shikarato. That's a specialty in our family. You know, in Milano, they have something called caffè shikarato, where they pour coffee and vanilla syrup into a mixer, and they mix it, and it gets this froth like a cappuccino, but it's only espresso and vanilla, and it's a specialty here of this house. My children do it as well. We do it in a mixer with ice, and it gets this really, really frothy bit, which is like a cappuccino, but you have no milk, and it's bitter and sweet and very cold and very refreshing, and I think it's the best drink in the summer. It's called caffè shikarato. And this is a trifle. That's something which is a lot more work than it looks, and it's an English classic where you basically pile everything that you have: biscuits, berries, cream, custard, almonds, everything in a glass, and make it look nice. My children love it, but that I don't do very often anymore because it's a lot of work, and it basically gets eaten within a second. And then they say, "Can we have it again? Can we have it again?" And
I was quite curious of this one. Is it meringue?
Yes, it's a pavlova, and it's, as you can see, again, this is a recipe I dug out as a student. It's baked on a piece of board. Can you see? It's wood. It's a wooden board below. You have to bake it on a wooden.
Really?
Yeah, you bake it on the wooden board. First you put it inside, and you bake it for 10 minutes with 140 degrees, then 30 minutes 110 degrees, and then you leave it in there for another 3 hours. So you get this wonderful texture, crispy outside and gooey inside. And if you bake it on the board, it's much better for the taste. And in the cream, I also put 2 spoonfuls of yogurt to make it less rich. It's another classic. It's the lemon. Yes, it's the tarte au citron à la Freddy Girardet, who is a 2-star chef in Switzerland, and he bought this. I have his cookbook, which is again one great cookbook with not too many pictures. But this is, if anybody ever wants to make a tarte au citron, I think it's the best. Tarte au citron à la Freddy Girardet.
So, Gaby, when I drop by on my way to Hamburg to see my girlfriend, what will you cook for me?
What do you want? What would you like? I think I would probably make some chicken, some curry chicken, because I really like eating different curries. Do you like curries? Do you like it spicy?
I love curries. I like it spicy. I like it hot. Yes.
Very good. I think I would make. Let's see. Or maybe I would make you cook in our German cooking machine, the Thermomix, which is not so known in France.
Oh yes, it is. I have one.
You have one? You didn't.
Of course, I have one.
Yeah. You see, we would probably make. It depends on the season. We would probably make a very German dish of baked apples. You know, we have this German dish, baked apples. When you stuff it with homemade marzipan, which you can make in this machine. Almonds, homemade marzipan, and whilst the apple is in the stove, we make a homemade custard. You know, like a vanilla sauce with eggs and the vanilla. How do you call it? The vanille, the proper vanille, and that is quite hard to make because the custard mustn't be hotter than 70 degrees. Yeah, so you basically always need to make sure that it doesn't heat too much, but you can make it in this machine. And before, we would probably make a very spicy chicken with a Moroccan tagine. How about that? I love it.
Sounds great.
I love the Moroccan kitchen. Yes.
Well, I'm going to plan that trip to Hamburg.
Yes, and let me know. Yes.
Real soon.
Great.
Soon. I have a last question about cars, or well, at least one other question about cars. How is it different to be a woman driver on the track?
It's very different. I didn't realize at first, but it's very, very different. And it's also different to be a woman driver in France and in Germany. Actually, to pay you a compliment, the French are much better about it. I think you have to understand that, and I'm really grateful that I learned it from the men, that the way women and men treat competition is very different. Men see competition very playful. They win today, they lose tomorrow, they lose tomorrow, and they win today. And if they lose today, they go and have a beer and say, hey, you won today, good for you, but I will win tomorrow. No hard feelings. You know, it's playful and it's much more fun. And we women, we tend to think, oh my God, I lost, I'm a loser. Or we think, oh my God, I was quicker, I beat her, I'm a bitch. And also we women tend to have a much stronger memory of who was quicker. No. The men forget that immediately. And actually it was men in the beginning who told me to be more competitive or to start overtaking and not to be so careful with all this. And I think I learned a lot through the competition, and I wish more women could enter a competition with this lightheartedness that the men have. You know, it's when you play Monopoly with your children, okay, I'm a bad loser, but at least I can be a bad loser. And I go, I lost, but it's more fun to be a bad loser and to be an officially bad loser and to be a winner. And they go, oh, I don't mind if I lost. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's very different. And it's a learned experience. I don't think it's something we have automatically in us. But I really learned that through the male racing world, and I'm really grateful to them. And the Frenchmen, they respect me like one of their own. The German men are a little different. They say, come on, give me the car. I show you what it can do. It's great. It's a great cultural difference. German men tend to be more macho than the Frenchmen. And I guess it's because I guess it's a more modern society in France as well. It's very interesting for me to see the cultural differences.
Well, you have two sons, I think.
Yes.
Well, you told us earlier that it was prohibited to talk about cars at home. Are they a little bit into cars?
No.
How old are they first? And
they're 23. Okay, I talk about my children. I mean, they're always children, but they're 23 and 19. They're really not into cars at all. They like karts racing. They go and do that with their friends. But I guess they think cars and racing, it's something feminine. Because they only see me doing it.
Yeah, okay.
They probably thought, oh, it's only women doing this. It's crappy shit. And they like cars, but they're really not passionate about them at all. No, unfortunately not. But it's probably a good thing, because I was 40 when I started racing, and I would not like my children to say, oh, I want to go racing now when they're students. It has a funny au goût to it. I think they're too young. They should live their life. They should finish their studies. They should have their jobs, and then think about an expensive motorsport like racing. I don't think it's sensible. I think when you're 40, you can do it, and they can then do it.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Gaby, for having us in your kitchen today.
Yes,
and telling us about your two passions, cars and cooking. And well, I wish you the best for the coming races. A lot of fun instructing in Salzburg as well. And well, hopefully I will get to your house and have that wonderful meal you're promising me.
Yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Stephanie.
Well, thank you,
please
everyone.
to come.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for following. And well, have a very nice day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Gaby.
Bye-bye.